Hi guys! So for Christmas, my daughter bought me a set of the Inktense pencils, which is awesome. My family knows me pretty well by now. They know that if they buy me any kind of art supply or anything that'll put a mark on paper, then I'm going to be pretty happy. But I've been really curious about these for a while and haven't had a chance to play with them at all, so this is really exciting. Anyway, so this is a brand new medium for me. I have played around with watercolour, rather unsuccessfully I might add, but I've heard these are quite different. Honestly, I have absolutely no idea how they work, so I'm just going to have a play around and see if I can create something worthwhile. Or maybe not. We'll see. Today I'm going to be using some of the Arches hot press watercolour paper, which seems kind of counterintuitive to use something so expensive for, essentially an experiment of something I have absolutely no idea how it's going to turn out. The reason I'm splurging and using the good stuff is because I'm assuming I'm going to be using a fair bit of water with this project, and I don't want to be fighting or blaming my paper for any sort of problems that pop up as we go. So I started off this piece with zero expectations of success. I didn't want to be putting any pressure on myself to create a masterpiece on my first try, so I chose a really simple subject and just allowed myself to play around. I mean, you can even see a glass of wine in this video. I never ever drink in art, so that's just how relaxed I was in my approach to this piece. I really just wanted to sit down and have a play around with the colours and see what they did. Now, I was assuming that these were at least kind of like watercolours, so I started off by drawing out my outlines in a water-soluble pencil, taping down my paper, and adding a few touches of masking fluid to areas that I wanted to keep white. Now, I did buy myself a block of the white ink, but I wasn't sure how well that could possibly work, so I put that masking fluid down as just a little bit of a safety precaution. Well, any illusion I had of these being anything like watercolours went straight out the window with the first wash. It's kind of hard to explain, but the ink didn't move anything like watercolour would. It didn't bloom out into the wet paper at all, staying precisely where I put it. In trying to describe it, I'd have to say that it was acting much more like a really wet acrylic paint, except much more vibrant than I could ever get if I'd watered down my acrylic paints this far. Once I was happy with the background, I moved on to the little wren. And I started off by using the pencils as I would use any other colour pencil. Now, these pencils have a really strangely soft, crayon-y kind of texture. They will sharpen to quite a fine point, but they feel kind of waxy going down onto the page. It was fairly easy to get the smaller details down with that pencil tip, but not the super fine ones. For some more precise lines, I started adding water and using a very fine Taklon bristled brush. The one that I was using was angled so that it had a flat edge and a very fine point to work with, and it worked perfectly to create some really nice fine lines. Throughout most of this wren, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing, and this is where that white block came in amazingly handy. It dries unbelievably opaque for such a wet medium. I don't know how it works, but it just does. The white did such an amazing job that the masking fluid was completely unnecessary, and all that extra messing around meant that I actually really regretted using it. The best thing about the white was the way that it allowed me to keep going backwards and forwards between highlighting and adding deeper colours, which really helped me with my limited colour palette to achieve some really nice subtle colours on that bird. After playing around for a while, I think that white block is a bit of a must-have with these pencils. It really just made the process so much freer and gave me so many more options. That white ink is a little bit like using gouache, except it won't lift once it dries. So you can just keep adding glazes of colour over and over and over. It was at this point that I realised that using that good paper was probably very important. I had added so many layers and added so much water, I'm not sure that a less robust paper would have been able to handle it. Finally, I moved on to the little branches at the base, and I wanted to experiment and play around with what kind of textures I could achieve with the Inktense pencils. I put down a base layer of the bark coloured pencil and added water. Once that was dry, I used the pencils and the white block to add a top layer, and I didn't wash this out with water, which left a mottled crayon-like layer on top of my base, which worked rather well. In fact, I think the thing that surprised me most about the Inktense medium was the amount of different textures I was able to achieve across the whole drawing. Being that I was expecting a more watercolour effect, the amount of different textures that I was able to achieve was a really pleasant surprise. And so here's the end result. And I'm pretty happy with this guy. There are a few things that I'd like to fix or that I'd do differently next time, but for a first attempt, I'm pretty happy. This was super fun to make too. The whole process only took about 2 hours, and I'm definitely looking forward to using these again. Of course, now I'm going to have to go to the art shop, and I'll definitely be picking up some more of the blocks, and I think I need to buy every colour pencil now, but so be it. Honestly, I do recommend these if you ever get a chance to have a play around. This was a fun project. I hope you've enjoyed this and it inspires you to go out and play with some new mediums for yourself. Please leave me a like or a comment to tell me what you think, and if you like my work, why not hit that subscribe button? Thanks for watching, guys.